All right, coaches, let's talk about how to brief these days. We've got that video with Fern that's hopefully coming to you so you guys can check that out, talking about how to best approach these. But I wanted to just give you an example of how I would brief one of the days. Let's start with the first one of the month. What we have is our 3 different options. We've got our option 1, which is CrossFit, that one in the center there, 50 wall balls, 40 shoulder to overhead, 30 ring dips. Then we've got our light option, 50 air squats, 40 shoulder to overhead, 30 jumping ring dips, and then we'll do that for 12 minutes. And then we've got our heavy option, 10 wall balls, 8 shoulder to overhead, 6 strict ring dips, rest the remainder of 4 minutes. Then you're gonna do that for 3 rounds. So they're all falling in roughly about we'll talk about the CrossFit one in a second, but they're falling in from like an 8 to 12 minute time domain. These heavy option and the light option are bang on that 12 minutes. The CrossFit option is going to be very dependent on how fast the people go. But let's just talk about what the intended stimulus is for each piece and then how we would brief those. So this is not stuff that I would say to the class, but this is the stuff that you as a person, as a coach, should be thinking about. So you look at the CrossFit option, 50 wall balls, that's going to take you what? If you're fit, maybe 2 sets. So you're looking at 2 minutes. 2 minutes, 30 seconds, maybe with a little bit of rest in between. So let's say 2 minutes on the shorter end. So let's err on the short side so we can kind of map this out. 40 shoulder overhead, probably sets of 10, put it down, 10, put it down, 10, put it down. You can do 10 on the minute. So you're putting out another 10, 20, 30, another 4 minutes. Let's call it 6 minutes. And then 30 ring dips. Now, if you're more fit, that's going to be in the 2 to 3 minute range. If you're less fit, it's going to slow you down. So the overall stimulus is looking for a pretty sprinty thing here. So the CrossFit portion for today, if you're doing the CrossFit scale, we're looking for a sprinty sprint workout. Hang on for big sets, hold on for big sets, get a little fatigued in those ring dips and have to shake out the hands and come back due to the nature of press, press, press. You've got that redundancy there. Now, with the light, if we look at the stimulus, we should be moving the entire time, but not sprinting. It's not something, and this should be a common theme for the light stuff, it's not gonna be a sprint. It's gonna be just like light, steady movement the entire time. Almost pacing the entire time so we don't have to stop. Resting where we need to rest, picking up when we need to pick it up, resting before failure, that kind of stuff. And due to the nature of AMRAPs and their cyclicalness, that's kind of what we're looking for. Now on the heavy option, when we go over here, we have 10 wall balls, that are heavier, 8 shoulder to overhead, that's much heavier, and then 6 strict ring dips that are much harder, and then you're gonna rest the remainder of 4 minutes. So it should be something that you can do, close to unbroken and pretty punchy, but much more systemic than the rest of the stuff in terms of the length of the fatigue. And then you should have a bit of rest in each one of those because you're only doing 10, 18, 1, 2, 3, 4, 24 total reps across 4 minutes. So it should be sprint really hard, rest the remainder of that time. Sprint really hard, rest the remainder of that time. Sprint really hard, rest the remainder of that time. But the sprint is a heavier sprint, heavier, shorter. So error on the side of when you're giving numbers for these people should be going heavier here. Let's talk about how we would brief it though. So I'm gonna pretend I'm gonna brief this for the group of people who's in front of me, and I'll say, hello everyone, welcome. Let's talk about the 3 workouts we have today. Remember, we've got our CrossFit option, our light option, and our heavy option, and we'll talk about what makes the most sense for you to do. So our CrossFit option is the main focus here. It's going to be 50 wall balls, 40 shoulder to overhead, and 30 ring dips. We can always scale wall ball back to being something in lighter loads, but we're going for just a couple big sets to push through those wall balls, so we'll accommodate that as necessary. The shoulder to overhead, we're going at a relatively kind of lighter to moderate thing, something you can bang out 10 to 15 reps with. So we'll scale accordingly, meet you there. And then those ring dips, we want those to be difficult, but at the same time, you're getting like sets of 5 on those, and towards the beginning and then towards the end, maybe it's sets of 3, something like that. Now we can scale those back to something like a slow negative, or we can do box dips. There's plenty of places we can meet you at. We can also pull back the total number of reps. So again, this workout for the CrossFit side of it should feel very sprinty, but also very systemically fatiguing, meaning your whole body should be pretty tired from the shoulder to overhead and the wall ball, but also locally on your arms, it's gonna be hard to keep doing those ring dips because of the nature of the fact that you've got to press on the wall ball, press on the shoulder to overhead, press on the ring dip. So we're looking for a sprintier workout here. This is pretty gutsy and hard. We want you to push the whole time. Let's talk about the two other options. The light version is very similar, except instead of wall balls, you're doing air squats. Instead of shoulder overhead at heavier loads, you're doing shoulder overhead at much lighter loads. And instead of the normal ring dip, we're doing a jumping ring dip or a foot on ground box dip, and we can kind of meet you where you're at there. The goal here is to just be steadily moving for 12 minutes. This shouldn't be sprinty. Just because it's lighter, it doesn't mean we should go faster. We should just stay nice and steady as we move through this. That's the goal for the day. Just stay steady here. Stay steady, stay breathing. Entire 12 minutes, you're working. You're pretty much not resting. You can break up the shoulder overhead if needed, but just not resting too much. Now let's go over to the heavy option. Heavy option is made to be a heavy sprint, rest. Heavy sprint, rest, heavy sprint, rest. So we're gonna up the weight on the wall ball. We're gonna up the weight by quite a bit on the shoulder to overhead, and we're gonna make the ring dips a harder version of the ring dip. So you're doing much less reps, but it should be heavy feeling for you. And then you'll rest the remainder of 4 minutes. So you get a built-in rest there. I don't know, psychologically, the heavy option is probably gonna be the easiest up here, but it requires quite a level of skill to be able to push it. That's our day. We'll talk about what you guys are individually doing as the class goes on. All right, let's jump into the warm-up. That's the full day. That's how we would brief a day like today. And honestly, that's a bit of talking, but it's not too much, not too in-depth. We just give a little bit of info on each side and help people get after it. So good luck. If you have any questions, shoot us a message and we'll hopefully help you get this briefed out to your people. Enjoy.